Hello everybody, welcome to the video. I wanted to do an update on the Charlie Kirk case, and I've got the ATF's lab report about the bullet, because a lot of people are saying right now that the bullet didn't match the gun, and that proves that it wasn't Tyler Robinson that did it, and that's not the gun that killed him, and that means that the second shooter theory is the truth, and that's not what the ATF report says. So we're going to read over the ATF lab report real quick so that everybody can hear exactly what it does say. So this is the lab report from the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives that was given over to, let's see, it was reported September 17th of 2025 is this collection receipt. And this is what was given to the courts for their determination on what they had. I also have, I don't necessarily know that I'm going to read it, I'm probably not. I have the defense's response to this, because after the ATF released the bullet, the FBI took it and said that they wanted to conduct their own testing on it. Let's see if I can find what it says they were intending on doing. I know it's right up here at the top. More or less, they want to do a light imaging where they take pictures of it using light microscopy in order to see what marks the rifling of the barrel made on the bullet. It is light comparison microscopy and virtual comparison microscopy. So basically they want to take and compare a bullet that was fired through the rifle, more than likely into a barrel of water to preserve the bullet, and compare that to what they have. And you would take, I've got some bullets I'll put into the video, you would take and compare the rifling marks on the casing of the bullet you know was fired from the rifle that you collected from the water or whatever. I assume that's the medium they're going to use. And then you would take the bullet from the case and you would attempt to compare that to the marks on the other bullet. So what the ATF said, which has led to the FBI wanting to do further investigations, is what this video is more or less going to be about. And this is appendix, let's see here, it says Exhibit 2 in the defense's filing, which is to stop any further testing of it because they believe it could degrade the evidence in a manner that they wouldn't be able to put on a proper defense, because you would be using evidence that in no way could be linked to the case. That's kind of a long shot if you ask me, because the reality is the bullet was recovered from his body. So here's what the ATF received. They received item number 1, Exhibit 1, is one Mauser Model 98 30-06 Springfield caliber rifle bearing serial number 8863 with an optical accessory, the scope that was on it. 2 is one 30-06 Springfield caliber cartridge case. This is a fired round. This is the case that was still in the barrel when the rifle was recovered, or in the chamber when the rifle was recovered. 3 is one 30-06 Springfield caliber cartridge. This is a fully intact round that was underneath of the bolt in the bolt action rifle. 4, another 30-06 cartridge. 5, another 30-06 cartridge. So those would be the 3 remaining that were in the rifle, plus the one that had been fired. Then 6 is one bullet jacket fragment and 4 lead fragments. They are designated 6A through 6E. So the results of the examination read, this report refers to exhibits by lab number. The following results only apply to the items tested. The Exhibit 1 rifle was test fired and found to be in operable condition, meaning it worked. The test fires were designated as Exhibit 1.11. Exhibit 2 consists of one 30-06 Springfield caliber fired cartridge case bearing a Remington head stamp. Remington would be the company that manufactured the round. That's assuming that it wasn't a prior fired round that was then reloaded later on, just still bears the Remington stamp, because All the ones I reload still say, you know, like Win or Winchester on the back of them, because that's primarily what I use. The Exhibit 2 cartridge case was identified as having been fired in the Exhibit 1 rifle, meaning that the case that was in the chamber of the rifle that had been fired was for certain fired from that rifle. So the bullet went somewhere out of that. Exhibit 3 through 5 consists of 3 Springfield caliber unfired, 3 30-06 Springfield caliber unfired cartridges, each bearing a Remington head stamp. So they would also be able to prove that those 3 came from the same one that had been fired, all probably from the same exact box. Exhibit 2 cartridge case and Exhibit 3 through 5 cartridges were examined for the presence of comparable tool marks. Tool marks were located on the exterior of Exhibit 2 cartridge case and Exhibit 3 cartridges, scribe marks, that are consistent with being produced by engraving and or rotary cutting tips commonly found installed in handheld rotary tools, such as a Dremel tool. These tool marks contain marks of value for comparison if a suspect tool is located. So there were engravings on the side of the round that appear to have been done with a Dremel. So these would be what he engraved in it. I'm not sure if they're going to say what it is. It is in the other paperwork, which I'm going to read. I'm going to do another video immediately after this. I have the probable cause affidavit for arrest, and in that there's more to this, but it proves that what I said in a prior video is true, and all the people saying I was a liar are wrong. So we're going to get back to this though. It says, so that was if they could find the Dremel, they'll be able to show that this said Dremel carved in all of the casings. Exhibit 6 consists of 1 .30 caliber class deformed or damaged bullet jacket fragment designated 6A and 4 lead fragments designated 6B through 6E. So I've got some bullets. I'll take pictures of these and I'll show you more or less, you know, that's jacket fragments. This is off of a 50 cal, which that jacket peeled clean off. And it's a lot harder to match something like that, but that's not the point right now. The Exhibit 6A bullet jacket fragment could not be identified or excluded as having been fired from the Exhibit 1 rifle based on agreement of all discernible class characteristics and neither sufficient agreement nor sufficient disagreement of individual characteristics. The results of the comparison was inconclusive. Not the bullet did not match the gun, like so many people are saying right now. They couldn't prove it did or didn't. And the reason for that is how heavily damaged the bullet was. Okay, we're going to finish this, and then I'm going to show you some bullets I have here and explain to you why that can be. Firearms that produce general rifling characteristics similar to those observed on the Exhibit 6A bullet jacket fragment include numerous makes and models. The Exhibit 6B through 6E lead fragments are not suitable for microscopic comparison because they're just chunks of lead out of the inside of the bullet, and you can't really compare them. See the appendix of this report for further context regarding the conclusions listed above. Let's see here. The appendix says, an examiner may provide any of the following conclusions. These descriptions are meant to provide context to the conclusions reached in this report. Not every type of conclusion may be represented or applicable in every case. For inconclusive, it says, it is an examiner's conclusion that all observed class characteristics are in agreement, but there is insufficient quality and or quantity of corresponding individual characteristics such that the examiner is unable to identify or exclude the two tool marks as having originated from the same source. The basis for an inconclusive conclusion is an examiner's opinion that there is an insufficient quality or quantity of individual characteristics to identify or exclude. Reasons for an inconclusive conclusion include the presence of microscopic similarity that is insufficient to form the conclusion of source identification, meaning that they have commonalities, but that doesn't necessarily prove it was fired through the same gun. a lack of any observed microscopic similarity or microscopic dissimilarity that is insufficient to form the conclusion of a source exclusion. So there are similarities, but they cannot say that it was absolutely fired through that rifle. And the reason for that is if you have, I'll put pictures of these in because I don't know how well you're going to be able to see them, but if you have a bullet fired through something, this is a 9mm. I don't know if you can see, there's little groove marks on that. Those are your rifling marks, because inside of a barrel you have what are called lands and grooves. And those make these marks on its way out. It's kind of hard to see this, but again, I'll take pictures of these so you can see them. That's a 9mm that did not deform at all, and so all the rifling's on there. Well, then you could take that, compare it to a bullet that was damaged or fired into a person or an animal or whatever, even a target on a range. You could take one out of a target in a range and say, this person that fired this round at this location, well, this same gun fired around at this gun range into this said medium, dirt, rubber, whatever it is. So there's that. But the reason that could be inconclusive, and I'll show you this is a 50 cal, and this one, the jacket did not peel completely off the steel core. You can see that rifling marks right there, all on it. This other 50 cal was fired through the exact same, I shot it through a dryer door. There's actually a video on it because I was working on the hammer spring for the rifle. So there's a video where I fired it off of a stand. These are both fired same day, same video through the exact same dryer door. This one ended up in the dirt behind it. We had to dig it out. And again, you can see riflings. The other one completely peeled the jacket off of the steel core, but there are no marks on that steel core from the rifling. They would all be on this jacket. Well, this copper jacket is so heavily deformed that it'd be very hard to line that up. You potentially could use that, and that's where, if you read the defense's argument, the ATF says that they used like needle nose pliers or something along that line to actually bend the copper jacket back to attempt to look at it, and they still came up inconclusive. And the FBI has said that they're now going to do further testing, and they want to open the jacket up even further, the jacket fragment that they have, to see if they can do better testing on it. And that's where the defense has filed, basically saying that they're going against their 4th and 16th Amendments, I believe is what it is. I have the filing. It's super long, and it goes into a whole bunch of different prior court cases and rulings and precedents in courts, and it's a lot to read. And if you're not like me and you don't watch trials and go through court cases and stuff like that and read court documents all the time, it's boring. And it's even for me, I don't like reading all this stuff, but I do it because I enjoy seeing where the evidence can take you in a lot of this stuff. And in this case with firearms, there's a lot of lies and misinformation going around about the bullets. So that's that. But how the round did the damage that it did, and I'm going to show you this one, is these are both 308 Winchester hunting round. I believe extreme tip. Let's see. I do have a box. One second. These are Winchester 308 180 grain power points. So it is a copper jacket over a lead core that the ends are designed, when the lead hits the target, it peels back the copper jacket on it. And I have this round. These are, again, fired through the same 308 rifle, my hunting rifle, and both of them hit a deer. This one went clean through the deer and ended up in the rock pile behind. You can see it started to peel back the petals on the tip of that round. And this one, you could absolutely take and fire another bullet through my rifle into water, take that bullet out, and compare it to this and say, these were absolutely fired through the same rifle. Look at these. And what they do is I believe they take a dual microscope and they can look at both of them. So they're both aimed the same. They don't put them back to back. They would set them in a machine, and then they rotate each of the individual rounds until they can find these 4 marks all match exactly. Therefore, we know. So this one could absolutely be identified because it seems to have gone clean between ribs, through lungs and hearts, and out the other side between ribs. It never hit anything that slowed it down. until it hit the dirt behind it, and that's the impact on the end of it that I believe is what really flattened it. It clean through. This other one, it hit a deer in its shoulder, and it arced up and stuck in the spine right behind the neckline in the deer, and it absolutely destroyed this bullet. That's almost all the lead is still in there. It's just smashed down. And then the only real comparison you could make of this to the rifle it came through is just that the back ends of these rounds are the same exact dimension and have the exact same markings on them to show that they came from the same type of bullet. But you would never know if I fired this through a different 308. And the only way to do it would be attempt to peel these jacket fragments back and hope that you could get some form of rifling that you could see. But that will destroy the evidence, and the defense is arguing we can't let you do that. And again, if you take little chunks of lead from the inside of that, I think about the only thing you could do is prove it was the same exact density of lead as what was in the other ones. I don't really know how lead densities work like that when they put them in bullets, if they're all getting it from the same location or where it's coming from. But that's not matchable. And again, these fired to the same exact gun. And that takes me to a point that I've also heard over and over again, and you see it right now. All these people go into all these videos of how it would have taken his head off. And I know I mentioned this in the video before, but the reality is all these videos are showing the round hitting him in soft tissue in his neck, assuming that it hit here. I've watched the video of him dying 100 times. It did not hit him in his neck. It hit him in his collarbone, right? And that explains where the shirt flaps. There's actually... there's a video. I wouldn't say it's a representation exactly of what happened, but the Fat Electrician in Pewview did a video about shooting through barriers, van doors. And if you watch it, I believe it was 300 Blackout. They fired it through, and when the round went through, it hit the ballistic dummy, and you can see when it hits the collarbone, the shock wave in the what would be considered the flesh, the gelatin in front of it. And that's exactly what happened to his shirt. And that's when you see that fluff, and people were trying to argue that it was an explosive that blew up. And I don't agree with that. It just doesn't make sense. His microphone didn't blow up. His necklace didn't blow up. He wasn't wearing a vest underneath. It hit him in his collarbone, and all those vitals are back there. And again, if you want to go look at the last videos I did where I explained the arteries that are running right behind your collarbone there. And now you take this is likely what you might have found had it hit him in his neck and gone clean through his neck. That, and then you could have said, hands down, without a doubt, this would have went through, it would have hit somebody behind him. But more or less what they got is this, which hit a hard bone. And when it hit that bone, you can argue whatever you want about bone density and whose is harder than whose or isn't, but I don't care. A bullet designed to open up and fragment out like that, when it hits bone, it's doing exactly that. And it's transferring the energy instantly to everything right there. And getting hit in your collarbone right there, that bullet hits there, and it's gonna hit your shoulder blade once it gets through there, like this one hit the shoulder and then ended up in the spine of the deer. So that's more or less, I honestly, I think it's probably less than this, just because of it being a 30-06. I don't know whether it was 180 grain, 150 grain. Was it moving faster? Was it moving with more, kinetic energy? Heavier rounds moving slower. A lighter round, 150 grains, they're moving faster, and they do different things upon impact, But so anyone telling you that the bullet didn't match the gun, that I just read you the report, that is not what it says. It says that there are characteristics of the bullets being of the same make. They just couldn't prove that it was fired through the same barrel due to the extreme damage that was done to the bullet. And you can see what they do. All right. That's really it for this video. I am about to start recording a video, and I'm going to read the entire probable cause affidavit just so you guys can see what they had going into the first hearing. And as I told you in the last video, I watch an attorney who knows somebody that was in the probable cause hearing, and I knew this info the day the probable cause hearing came out. And the reason a lot of people didn't is you weren't allowed to record in the courtroom. You were allowed to take notes and then go out and report on what you saw, and not a lot of people were in there. So I'm going to get to that video next. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you got something out of it. Like, subscribe, share, and hopefully you guys come back for the next one. All right, thank you.